Hey guys, Farrell here. Today I want to talk on a couple of things. I want to talk about why I've cancelled my Fujifilm X-E5 pre-order, and I also want to talk about the Sony RX1R Mark III. I did pre-order the Fujifilm X-E5 and I was really excited for it. I think it's going to be an amazing camera, and from the reviews it seems really good for a niche. The issue is it's still in UK, it's reasonably priced, I would actually say, at 1,300 without a lens. It's still expensive, I'm not disputing that, but all cameras are expensive to buy in now. My issue is I was seeing this very much as an X Pro 4 alternative, as obviously we don't have an X Pro 4 yet, and a lot of people were let down by the Fujifilm X Pro 3. The problem is, I've got a Leica Q, so when we break down some of the base specs, yes, I would get to use my range of fantastic Fuji glass, but I get to use that on my X-T5 already. The viewfinder on the X-E5 is not very good, frankly. It's quite small, it's quite low resolution, and it's actually trailing behind both my X-T4, but it's also trailing behind my Leica Q116, which is a camera that's over 10 years old at this point. And it's not trailing behind it a little bit. Now, that's one thing that bothers me. Obviously, I love the new film simulation dial. I think Fujifilm are taking the right direction with this. This is finally a film simulation dial that the community can get behind. Not just newbies that don't know how to color grade. This is actually friendly for almost prosumer use, because I know a lot of people that really enjoy using their own custom film recipes. So that is a really good thing. I think the build quality, and I especially think the design language going into the X-E5, is possibly the best Fuji has ever done. And I say that as an avid X Pro lover. Obviously, we then have to touch on the fact that it's not weather sealed. Now, it's never going to be weather sealed, even at that price. And the reason being is, if they weather seal this, and if they put in a better viewfinder, you won't have enough reason to buy the X Pro when that eventually releases. And that's something you've got to bear in mind. Fujifilm, and any logical company that wants to exist, let me shut this door, it's starting to rain. Fujifilm and any logical company that wants to exist isn't going to cannibalize the higher end lineup. And in this case, what separates, let's talk about a previous X Pro model, the X Pro 3. What separates the X Pro 3 from the X-E5 is a better viewfinder, inclusion of an optical viewfinder, dual card slots, and weather sealing. Now, there is an argument for better handling, but I think there is also an argument that the X-E5 has better handling as well. Especially with that film simulation dial. So then that brings up the fact that the X-E5 has, frankly, a better processor, a better sensor, better video specs, more film simulations. So you can already see how the X-E5 is the X Pro we always wanted. It's just missing a couple of features, which has always been the case with the X-E line. So I do think we'll get the X Pro 4. I don't know when. I don't imagine we'll see it within the next 12 months due to cannibalization of sales. But for me, everything that I wanted, the handling, the image quality, the EVF, the looks of the camera, well, again, I've got a Leica Q. Frankly, it beats it on everything. And I'm not saying that to be an asshole. It's genuinely, this is better. And I was buying this X-E5 in a hope that it would be my Fuji Leica Q equivalent. And it never will be, unfortunately. An X Pro 4 with my 35mm 1.4 on the front of it, maybe. But that's why I've cancelled it. And touching on that point, realistically, I'm trying to have some self-control. It's very difficult. But I just want to have two cameras. I want to have my work camera, which is obviously my X-T4, which is a trusty workhorse and is just doing amazing work all the time. And then I also want to have my Leica Q. Now, Again, the X-E5 didn't really do anything particularly special. It did introduce some better video specs than my Leica Q, so that's something to think on. So then I cancelled the pre-order, and I was, in line for one of the first drops in UK, but I did cancel it, and I could have got it in. I could have made some reviews on it, I could have made some money off YouTube videos on it, and then I could have sold it on. But I decided against it because I believe it will be a good camera. I genuinely believe it will be a good camera, but I don't need it. I don't want to put the time into that content, frankly. I could always rent it at another point, and I'm not going to be in with the hype train, but I don't care. So I've got this trip to America coming up, and I want to be able to take one camera. Now, I did think maybe the X-E5 would have been perfect for that, but frankly, it's not weather sealed. We're going at the time of the year where we're probably going to be stuck in quite a bit of rain, frankly. And I need it to be a potent, capable camera. And I'm just not sure that the X-E5 would have been the right choice. If I did take it, I was going to take the 18mm and the 35mm for anyone that's interested. But as I say, I cancelled it, and I've set my horizons on a different camera that's on this table with me now. We'll get to that. So Sony announced the RX1R Mark III. Now, I loved the RX1R. I had it. I thought the lens was fantastic. One of my favourite lenses ever. Not the best lens I've ever used, but one of my favourite. Okay? It was a 35mm f2 Sonar Zeiss lens. Beautiful. Soft in the corners, but beautiful. Fantastic rendition. Beautiful fall off. Really nice 3D separation. Very, very good lens. So I thought, when they brought out the third version of this was last month. When they brought this out, this has the chance to be the perfect everyday carry. I love a fixed lens camera. Hell, I've had 4 of them now. But they brought it out and they made the texture on the camera a little bit different. Fine, it's not an egregious thing. They made the top level of the camera a little bit flatter, a little bit slimmer. It looks a little bit sleeker. They made the shutter button nicer. Perfect. They made a built-in viewfinder, and it's not like the pop-up one of the RX1R Mark II. It's the normal, new Sony-style viewfinder that just juts out from the camera. And when you put this big stupid hood on it, it completely ruins the lines of the camera. So in my mind, you can't really have that hood on it because I think it looks fucking egregious. And this viewfinder is so low megapixel. This viewfinder, by the way, we're going to talk about the price of this fucking camera, but this viewfinder is the same spec as the viewfinder on the Fujifilm X-E5. Now, the X-E5 is by all means an entry-level Fujifilm camera. Now I know we can argue prices all day, but it's the same viewfinder that's on the XT 2030 50 line. It's the same viewfinder that was on the XS10. It's the same viewfinder Sony have been using in their cameras for years and years and years and years. It's very low spec. As you can see, on these other cameras, I have less of an issue with it. The issue is this camera also doesn't have weather sealing. It doesn't have dual card slots. And it's over £4,000. I need that to sink in for a little bit. The Sony RX1R Mark III is, bear with me, in the UK, £4,200. £4,200 for a camera that has a shit viewfinder. For a camera of that price, I expect better. For a camera of that price, my original Leica Q from 10 years ago has a viewfinder with 50% more resolution. £4,200 for a camera that doesn't have weather sealing. Now, admittedly, my Q doesn't have weather sealing, but again, we'll touch on this. £4,200 for a camera that doesn't have inbuilt stabilisation. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of inbuilt stabilisation. I don't think it's the most important thing in the world. I do think it has its uses, its spaces, and I do think if you're buying a premium camera, it should be included. Point in case, 10-year-old camera has stabilisation. And it's fucking ugly, frankly. And I kind of liked the charm of the old RX1R. And I'm not saying that the original prices of the RX1R were not expensive. They were absolutely expensive. My problem is at £4,200, you are firmly in Leica territory. And what I mean by that is you could get a used Q2. You can even sometimes get a used Q3 for that price if you're really market watching. You could get a used Q limited edition. And I know a lot of you probably don't believe me when I say that. So I'll do an introduction video later. But this is a used Q2 limited edition. This is the Q2 Greg Williams Daniel Craig collaboration. One of only 750 Q2s ever made. And I got this for $3,300. It's still a lot of money. I'm going to trade in my Leica Q for it. I have taken all the money that I put aside for the X-E5 for it. But my point is this is almost £1,000 cheaper. Now, normally they're not this cheap, but this is around the average price of a Q2, we'll bear in mind. But for this, you're getting a weather-sealed camera. You're getting a much better lens. And I say that, some people always say, oh, I'd prefer if the Q2 had the Q or the Q2 had a 35mm. This is a 27mm. But it's a 1.7 lens, it's got stabilisation, it's got a considerably better viewfinder, and it's weather sealed. And there's some things that the Sony does do better. Video. You're not going to be doing video on a 35mm f2. There's going to be some wanker out there that does it for the sake of, oh, look what I can do on YouTube. But the point is, you're just not. And the autofocus is obviously going to be better on the Sony, because the newer Sonys actually have good autofocus. But again, you just need to bear in mind the market. You could buy an original Q, used, to be fair, and have between £2 to £3 in change. Or you could buy a Q2. You might be able to pick up a special edition. You might not. But the fact is, you're going to do that and you're still going to have change. And you're going to have a camera that holds its value better, that is made better, that has better specs. So it's kind of nuts. It's a crazy time, and Sony have really dropped the ball on this one. And I'm not saying that their pricing structure is so out of whack with how it has been previously. But that market is dominated by the people that are best at that market. So if you are, and please, before you feel sorry for everyone bashing on Sony, please bear in mind, they are one of, if not the biggest camera manufacturer in the world now. They can afford to put a good viewfinder in. They can afford to find a way to stabilize that lens. They can afford to consider weather sealing. And I'm not saying it's not a better camera. In fact, I would say it's going to be a very, very good camera, because I loved the original RX1R. But it's not a £4,200 camera. It's at a push, 3,000. At a push. Ideally, 2.5, if not a touch under. And it's still a lot, but I'm trying to account for the fact that the camera market's expensive now. All bills in every way have gone up now. You could blame some of it on tariffs if it makes you horny. But the fact is this is several £1,000s cheaper and has IBIS and has a better lens and it has a better viewfinder. I will say the Qs are a little bit bigger. This is cheaper and is limited edition and is better in almost every way. So, you know, I know the RX1R is an extremely extremely niche product. But I think this time it's going to fail. And I was really excited to see that camera come back into the market. My friend sent me the video and I could not believe that we were finally getting a refresh on the RX1R, because in my head, I'd dreamed what those specs were like and I was going to be a fucking day one purchase. And they dropped it, and I managed to get a limited edition Leica Q2 in fantastic condition for cheaper, and it's just a better camera. So there's some thoughts. Let me know what you're thinking. I still think that X-E5 is going to be an absolutely killer little camera, but it's not going to be my X Pro 4, and I need to be aware of that, as some of the Fuji community do as well. And I know it's difficult, we will get it eventually. We're just going to keep waiting, guys. Alright, that's my thoughts on everything. I will do an introduction to my Q2 at a later date, and an unboxing and all of that fancy crap. I've still got a 23mm f1.4 Fuji lens review to do on the LMWR lens, which is absolutely fantastic, and I've recently shot a wedding on it, so I wanted to do a little video on that. But if you enjoyed this content, let me know down in the comments. I love talking to you guys about this. I've got a really chatty community down there, and some of you post some absolutely brilliant comments. I know there's going to be a lot of Leica hate in this video, but frankly, there should be a little bit of Sony hate too. Alright, see you in the next video. Peace.